Hi everyone, welcome to Last Book Alive. Today I'm going to be talking about a book called Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This book was published by Burrow Press, and it's actually been a book that I had been hearing about for a while, and I finished reading it last month. And Yeah, I wanted to share my thoughts on it. And I also wanted to let you all know that I've kind of created a schedule. So on Saturdays at 4 p.m., I will be sharing a post on a book that I've read. I'll do that either with a friend or by myself. But yeah, I'm just trying to be a little bit more consistent when it comes to posting because I read really fast, but I found that I don't have people to discuss it with, so it'll just be me talking, which anyway I've done before, but I'm going to be doing it in a more like conscious kind of way, a more mindful manner. So Yellowface, my very short take on it. It's a very readable book, but in my opinion, it doesn't go very deep into critiquing white privilege. It just dishes up for us whatever we know of, white privilege and the kind of problematic behaviors that arise from it. Okay, so this is a first person narrative. The main character is Juniper Hayward, who changes her name to Juniper Song. Um, and her relationship with her friend Athena. So Athena Liu is they're basically best friends, but it's more like a case of you know a very surface level friendship. Juniper is envious of Athena's success. Athena's a very beautiful Asian American celebrated author, and they both graduated from the same college, same class, but Juniper has not had the same level of success that Athena has had. This obviously leads to jealousy, but also it's almost like keep your friends close but your enemies closer. So I think maybe that's what it is. So Juniper, though she does not like Athena, she wants to be close to her, and we find out in the book that even Athena doesn't really like Juniper and thinks she's kind of pathetic. But they're still like very good friends. Um, I'm not gonna give away a really major kind of spoiler here, or try not to. But basically, uh, things progress in the book, and what happens is that Juniper ends up stealing Athena's work. Athena has written a rough draft, and what Juniper does is she basically does a little bit of research, a little bit of writing, and then basically publishes it in her name. And she changes her name to Juniper Song so that it's racially ambiguous and nobody can call her out on the fact that she is writing about Chinese. Actually, I think it's Chinese laborers in World War II. That's what her book is about. Nobody can call her out on that, and like how she can write it just because she's white. Um, the book is like a tongue-in-cheek look at white privilege. I like the fact that it was written from the perspective of a white person as opposed to an Asian American person, because then you kind of get a really good idea of how whiteness operates, right? There's no excuse for it, and it's not really assessing it from the victim's perspective but from the aggressor's perspective. Um, at the same time, I felt like it didn't go deep enough into the minds of other characters. So, a Juniper Song is somebody that, we're laughing at her, we're not laughing with her. So we needed, at least I needed another character to latch on to kind of empathize with. And Rebecca F. Kwan doesn't give us that character. She could have created one, maybe characterized Athena as the kind of victim, but she doesn't. Uh, so if you're used to like having a very clear notion of a protagonist in a book, this book will frustrate you because there is no one clear protagonist. You know, Athena is, yeah, I mean, she is a minority, she's Asian American, but she's also playing the game, right? So she's also giving the publishers what they want from the Asian American community. So there's a critique of tokenism, but also how people capitalize on it. Um, so yeah, I thought that I thought that one of the fundamental questions that this book asks is, what are the grounds for authorship? What makes a book yours? Is it the person whose idea it is and who's written the first draft, or is it somebody who gives it its final shape? It's obviously the first one, but it does raise this question, and also I think it problematizes how, like, it really gives us a glimpse of the publishing industry. It's fiction, but I don't know if it's true, but it's amazing how easily the publishing house Eden Press um, stands behind Juniper Song when people start raising doubts about, like, if she's even written the book or not. um, and then when they in fact do find out the truth, they go into damage control mode instead of, like, kind of acknowledging what has happened, which is kind of predictable, but still. um, yeah. So I didn't feel like it got into the question of authorship, even though it's one of the main questions that it keeps coming back to. And I thought that it kind of kept in the safe space of kind of critiquing white privilege. So we can laugh about it, but I just didn't feel like there was anything deeper that I could root myself in when I was reading this book. Um, you know, so yeah, it shows us Juniper Song's white blinders and makes us laugh, because she believes she's not a racist, and she believes she's an ally. Um, but I don't know. It doesn't. I don't know how else it would have interrogated white privilege, but it doesn't go beyond this, beyond interrogating this. Maybe, making, Juniper maybe reflecting more, feeling a sense of guilt, but RF Kwang does not do that. She just leaves it at that. I mean, I don't know what her goal was here, but this is something that kind of struck me, that there's just that surface level interrogation of whiteness. It doesn't actually tell me how whiteness operates in a very, like, deep way, like, in a very, like, a way that I would feel like, wow, yeah, this is how it. There's no sense of empathy in me when I'm reading this book towards anyone. Uh, so yeah, I mean, the only person, I mean, I would say that I feel like maybe two people in the book that I feel a little bit of empathy towards are Candace, who is an assistant, or works at Eden Press initially, is Asian American, raises red flags about Athena, about Juniper Song's book, and is suspicious of Juniper, but she gets kicked out, and not only does she get kicked out, but she gets blacklisted, so she can't get hired anywhere else. But when she does take her revenge on Juniper, uh, which is kind of very comical also, Juniper thinks she's standing up for the Asian American community and she's kind of like a savior. And Candace is like, fuck Athena. This is not about Athena, this is about me. So she's taking care of herself. That is refreshing also because, people who are not white are also selfish and, generally operate as human beings do, for their own self-interest. And I feel minorities are often given this kind of halo, or like some kind of a, better human being kind of status that we then have to live up to. And I think that this book deconstructs, like, just rubbishes that, through the character of Candace, who's like looking out for herself, and why not. And then there's another character that I empathize with, who was Athena's mom. But I actually would have really liked to know the relationship between Athena and her mother. And actually I would have loved to know more about Athena. Like, I feel like if you're going to talk about racism, if you're going to talk about what Juniper Song does to balance that out, like, I wanted a complicated Asian American character, like, that you would, that she would have delved deep into, so that we had a counter narrative and maybe a hook to again root ourselves in the book, and like she gives us a glimpse of Athena, and I found her Athena to be very very fascinating through her mother, because she had a very complicated relationship with her mother, right? So that would have been something that I would have loved to like kind of understand and get into, but unfortunately that doesn't happen. The RF Kuang doesn't give us that. Um, so yeah. So yeah, I mean, I just wrote like Juniper doesn't know Athena who she is, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't. So I guess in conclusion, to conclude, um, I I think you should read this book if you are interested in how the publishing industry operates, and maybe a case of whitewashing in the publishing industry. Uh, I don't know. I didn't really like this book because it just doesn't it didn't connect with me. I would have loved to see the female friendship between Athena and Juniper, like maybe get a little bit more of an idea of why they don't like each other, instead of just a surface level like, oh, she's successful, she's not, therefore they hate each other, um, so yeah, I think that is basically my take, my very short take on this book. I do think that this book is readable though. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't read it. Please do read it. It's called Yellowface, and this is just my opinion, but one of the reasons why I started this podcast is to encourage people to read. So I would love to actually for you to read this book, and then tell me if your opinion is different than mine and why that is. So I'd love to know what you thought about it. Yeah, that's it from me. Have a great weekend and the rest of the week, and I'll check back in with you next week to ask you your thoughts on Yellowface if you read it. Bye, take care.